Intriguingly, a dozen more administration officials all chose to unmask General Flynn. Why is this important? Unmasking involves revealing the identity of an American's private phone conversation without a constitutional warrant to eavesdrop on that conversation. What makes this even more troubling is that this American was a high-ranking advisor to an incoming president of the opposite party. This is incredibly troubling and shocking that the previous administration, under President Obama, under Vice President Biden's specific instruction, was eavesdropping on an American advisor to the next president. If Vice President Biden and the president's inner circle of advisors were all listening to a senior Trump administration advisor's private phone conversation, this would amount to a serious abuse of power. The only question remains is, what did President Obama know and when did he know it? Each of these officials need to be asked if and when they discussed this information with President Obama and what he advised they do with the information. The question that an FBI agent scrawled in the margin of Flynn's file should be asked of Vice President Biden. Should we try? This is coming to Biden. Is this something that Biden and the president discussed? Should they try to entrap Flynn on a Logan Act violation, or should we try to get him to lie? If this was the intention, and this was discussed by Vice President Biden with President Obama and other high-ranking officials, this is incredibly troubling. This question absolutely must be investigated. That's why today I'm inviting the Director of National Intelligence to come to testify next week on these troubling declassified documents that now show that Vice President Biden and virtually the entire top echelon of the administration of President Obama was listening to an American's conversation without a constitutional warrant, unmasking him, and listening to a top advisor of an incoming president of the opposite party. This is incredibly troubling. We have the documents here of our letters to Attorney General Barr, Director of National Intelligence, Rick Grinnell, and we also have the documents listing all of the names. There are at least a dozen other names in addition to Vice President Biden, but I think it's important that we finally have this information on the record. There's been much conjecture in recent days that President Obama was specifically directing this. We now know at the very least Vice President Biden was in this up to his eyeballs. Yes?
If this happens to a current president, this would be an impeachable offense, if not criminal offense.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
Would you like to see criminal charges be brought against them?
I think we need to get to the bottom of this, and I think the first thing is to interview under oath the Director of National Intelligence and get to the bottom of what goes on with unmasking. How unusual is this that the entire upper echelon individually, it wasn't like one request for this, there were dozens of requests. Almost everybody in President Obama's top circle wanted to see this and wanted to listen to this conversation. But this is troubling because this isn't about national security. This is about eavesdropping on your opponent and eavesdropping on the new president's top advisors. So this is very, very troubling, and this was being led at least by Vice President Biden, if not the president. And we need to get to the bottom of it to make sure this never happens again, because really, for the average American, they're worried that this could happen to a top general like General Flynn, but can you imagine this power being unharnessed on an ordinary American? How would we defend ourselves?
Senator Paul, can you explain what was the most likely scenario here? That there was an intercepted call, the transcript was then circulated amongst senior staff, and then the various senior staff requested to know who was on the call? I mean, what is the most likely scenario as to why these names are on the list, or how this transpired?
Well, I think that's an important...
We say, and I ask you to say with us, lift up your voices in this great meeting in the heart of England, and to all the world a message: England lives and marches on.